Hey guys, it's Paul, combat veteran, MMA fighter, YouTuber, and today we are going to be checking out Major Kill's video about Games Workshop screwing it up big time. But really, I'm going to be using this as a vehicle to talk about my thoughts and my feelings on Games Workshop's controversial announcement banning fan animations. But before we get into it, of course, check out the merch store below. I have all sorts of fun parody shirts, which are protected by U.S. parody law, right? And, of course, check out the second channel, the Instagram, the Twitch stream, the podcast I run with my brother, and more. All right, all the links are down below. Okay, let's get into this.
G'day, guys and gal. Bit of a less formal video today, and more of a pissed off expose inspired by recent shitty events created due to some brain dead people. I also wanted to take this time to address stuff like Warhammer Plus and the SODAZ situation. Think of it like a follow-up to this video. And no, GW did not stop. Damn it. I'll hit this video one section at a time so I don't end up rambling and then maybe saying something that will get me in hot water later on. Although knowing myself as I do, that will probably just happen anyway. The first things first, Warhammer Plus, which was the catalyst for all this shit. And I say shit with intention. Shit has been happening. For those that don't know, Warhammer Plus is basically a subscription service coming out in August where you can get access to VIP events, different Warhammer books, White Dwarf magazines, exclusive minis, Warhammer animations, Warhammer apps, and GW's own little official group of YouTubers who make painting and lore videos. When Warhammer Plus first came to my attention before its features were revealed, I was pretty skeptical. It seemed like they were following a money-grabbing trend, and them taking all the Warhammer animators and forcing them onto Warhammer Plus smelled like desperation. I didn't want to comment on it though, because I just didn't have all the facts. But at £5, or like $1 million Australian dollars, a month, I actually reckon it's worth it. They've really put their best foot forward here, and are delivering good value, so well done GW. But that does not excuse all the other bullshit which has come to light.
Yeah, this was sort of my reaction when they said they were going to be hiding a bunch of content behind Warhammer Plus. I understand that YouTube is not the greatest platform in terms of financial rewards. It's I think still excellent. And with Warhammer, okay, here let's place things in context. Warhammer's primary revenue stream, as far as I can tell, is selling the miniatures. But remember, when you purchase those miniatures, you assemble them, you paint them, right? And you put them on their base, which means that huge, important phases of the manufacturing process don't happen. GW doesn't pay for them. So I would say these miniatures, perhaps the largest, cost $1 to make, right? So their scarcity and their price, effectively, is artificially created, right? GW is charging a lot, not because miniatures are expensive, right? I can go purchase little green army men at my local dollar store for about, 1/3 of a cent per little army guy. But because Games Workshop controls the licensing, the look of those miniatures, that's why the price is so high. All right, again, look at Major Kill's a great example of a guy who, has his own miniature figurines that he sells that resemble Warhammer 40K style and size miniatures, but he is able to do so with a 3D printer in his house and still offer lower prices than GW. Imagine what you could do with an economy of scale. Now, so given that we know that that's GW's big revenue stream and the profit margins are eye-watering on it, again, 60 times your cost of manufacture for something like a rare commander type model is something that literally would give Jeff Bezos like an entire other rocket ship, if you know what I mean. Right, so we know GWs make money hand over fist, and it shows in their stock price, right? I may actually here. Let's take a peek at it real quick. Games Workshop stock price. Nope, stock price. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so it's at 155 Great British pounds. All right, there you go. This is their stock price over time. In 2011 through basically 2016, they pretty much traded around £6 a share. And then they went from, no kidding, £6 a share to 150, right? This is Amazon. This is Tesla levels of growth, right? And again, so that's a testament right there to just how profitable this company is. Now, if you know how corporations think, you know that just because you're profitable in one area doesn't mean that you can't extract more value from things. The UFC is excellent and also terrible about this because their products, instead of being plastic miniatures, are human beings maiming each other. And that's as someone who loves the UFC, right? So there's no, to expect GW to just do fans a solid and not extract money from things is sort of ridiculous.
Point number 2, the death of SODAZ. Now, SODAZ hasn't actually died, but he has officially ceased all work and plans for any Warhammer related content in the future. Considering SODAZ's animations were legendary and had been enjoyed by millions of people across the world, this is a huge L. A huge, avoidable L if GW weren't busy smelling their own farts 24/7. I actually remember being like, it sucks that all the Warhammer animation channels are gone, but at least they didn't get SODAZ. Next minute, the next day they got SODAZ. I must have forgotten to touch wood or something, because that was terrible timing. Situation is this. SODAZ and the rest of the Warhammer animators had to remove all their Warhammer content and announce that they were working with GW. The details around this were sketchy. Were the animators told to join GW or cease? Were they basically forced into a corner with only one way out? Or was it a very nice optional voluntary thing? I actually got in contact with one of the animators, who I won't name because I ain't no snitch, and he said that he wasn't sure what GW would say if they refused to join them because they accepted straight away. So I didn't know if the animators...
So, okay, here's my take on this, right? Copyright law is, we'd like to believe that there's a single copyright law all over the world and that law is law. But, of course, that's not how countries work, right? Copyright law in Korea may be very different from copyright law in the United States, right? And here in the United States, you may, copyright law is relatively strict, right? Corporations want to defend their intellectual property, especially corporations like Games Workshop that, invest a lot in building out lore, designing these miniatures, right? They want to protect them from exploitation, and that's fair, right? But there are a lot of exceptions. And again, channel like mine, commentary and criticism is absolutely protected, right? This is protected free speech that's been well established in court cases. And the other thing is parody, right? Parody is also allowed. Just like I can depict Mickey Mouse as running a detention camp in Xinjiang, right, to reflect Disney's acquiescence to China's human rights abuses, right? I can use Mickey Mouse to depict that, right? But what I cannot do is put Mickey Mouse on a t-shirt and sell it. But I can put Mickey Mouse guarding a Uyghur detention camp on a t-shirt and sell it because that is protected by parody law. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to say that this is like universally constantly true. I'm giving you the broad strokes of what I have figured out as a layperson. If you have real questions about the specifics of U.S. copyright law, you should absolutely consult a copyright lawyer. But in Korea, you could have a totally different set of rules at work. And so that's where SODAZ is located, right? Games Workshop is headquartered in the UK. And the question is, does SODAZ's work run afoul of Korean copyright law? And that is a question that I don't really have an answer to, right? I'm not even sure that their work would violate US copyright law. I think it probably would. I think it uses clear intellectual property. It doesn't appear to be a parody. It doesn't appear to be a work of criticism. And though you are allowed to use it if it's not done so for profit, right? And So that's sort of, and there are some other questions, right? You can use existing images in art. That's why some like avant-garde artists, for example, will make, let's say, a collage of corporate logos and say, oh, this is my art. Or Andy Warhol's classic example of the tomato can, right? Which is a brand, a Campbell's brand tomato can. But because it was an original work, right? It was an original reimagining of the iconic label of Campbell's soup, that it was actually protected by U.S. copyright, right? And because it's like, okay, if Andy Warhol made it, it's clear it was presented as art. Right? Like I said, it's again not simple. It's complicated, but ultimately the outcome is that sort of stuff is protected. So in the U.S., would SODAZ's animations constitute totally original work, or would they be seen as derivative copyright infringement? Honestly, if he wasn't getting any money from it, I think he would be protected. But because he probably got some money for it, if he were a US-based YouTuber, he probably would lose a court case, would be my guess as a layperson who's not a lawyer and not an expert. So, again, we're stuck with this situation where, yes, GW makes a lot of money. And maybe these animators are running afoul of copyright law, maybe they are not. But here's the problem. How do you resolve it? You got to resolve it in court, at least in the United States. Maybe a country like Korea or the UK or Germany or somewhere else, or Canada has a non-judicial way of adjudicating these things, right? Maybe there's some sort of board or hearing or something that can take place. But in the United States, in the good old US of A, if you want to enforce a right that you have, you need a lawyer. And lawyers cost at least hundreds of dollars an hour. And remember, Games Workshop, rich as shit. Regular people, as Major Kill talks about in a subsequent video about YouTubers, these guys are making, if they're good, maybe $1,000 a month. And so which one of those people can afford a protracted legal battle to determine copyright? And that answer is, of course, GW. GW can just delay, as long as if GW can afford lawyers, they probably have lawyers on retainer and can basically fight you in court forever. Whereas you as an animator who makes, again, $2,000, $3,000, you can afford about 4 hours a month of a lawyer's time. That's not enough to fight a parking ticket, let alone a complex international copyright case. So, regardless of who is right by the law, GW just sort of wins, at least in the United States, by being bigger and being able to afford lawyers. And so, again, that's why these animators probably said, they didn't need GW to threaten to sue them, right? Because GW doesn't know the outcome of these cases any more than the rest of us. But they didn't. The animators almost certainly knew that they would have to really get into some work, get into some hard-hitting legal battles, very expensive legal battles, to determine whether or not their works had violated copyright law. Worse still, right, is that these animators, right, a lot of them do this as passion projects. And so the idea of just being able to be associated with a major corporate entity, and frankly, to get a regular income to develop these products is probably something they really want. It's probably their dream to be a professional animator. And so to get the opportunity to do it as a real job, right, is probably a huge deal and potentially a massive boon to their future careers if they get asked to animate things in the future. Okay, having discussed what I don't know about copyright law, let's check back with Major Kill.
Had a choice in the matter or not, but I actually gave GW the benefit of the doubt and said, you know what? GW ain't a stupid scumbag. And it would take a seriously stupid scumbag to attack their own community and force them to delete all their content, which is basically just millions of dollars of free marketing. Well, it turns out I was wrong, as SODAZ has revealed the reality for us. On a Korean forum, SODAZ posted this. Now this has been translated, so it looks a bit, hard to follow, but it seems like he's saying that GW told him that his videos had to be deleted, regardless of if he joined their team or not. SODAZ then accepted their offer to work with them, and he deleted his videos as a show of good faith, and because he had no fucking choice. Then GW left him out to fend for himself, and basically ghosted him. This is really fucked up, as when all the Warhammer animators deleted their content for GW, there was a part of the community that was in uproar. People didn't know that the animators didn't have a choice, so people like SODAZ got attacked. Now, whilst it wasn't like a large percentage of the community doing this, if you've got 100,000 people and 99% of them love it and support him and 1% don't, that 1% still equals 1,000 people. And SODAZ is an animator, he's not an internet personality. He's not like me or Valrak, who see hate comments and laugh about it. He takes it really hard, and as a result of the backlash, he said, "Fuck this, I'm out."
Yeah, I want to point this out. You know, I like to believe I'm kind of a tough guy, right? I've had some trying experiences. But what was fascinating, I had, of course, the one big video that went viral breaking down the cash and transit heist in South Africa. And, the nice thing about these Warhammer videos is that everybody that comes here is part of a community, right? We're all on Team Warhammer. Some of us are into the lore, some of us are into the tabletop, right? But we're all here because we have something in common. The problem with that video is a lot of those viewers didn't have anything in common other than the fact that they wanted to watch something salacious. And holy cow. Again, 90% of the comments were good, right? We're just like, wow, thanks for this analysis. Or, that looks really scary. Stuff that is fine. But man, that 1% were vicious. I had people tell me that I must not be a real combat veteran because I couldn't identify the caliber of round being shot on the dash cam being recorded and then replayed on YouTube, right? Obviously, when the Taliban shoots at you, you instantly gain a tremendous set of knowledge about firearms of all makes and models, regardless of whether your country uses them or not, right? I had people say, obviously the standard horrible internet stuff, calling you names, that sort of thing. Lot of racists, lot of and I don't mean like the kind of light sort of, wink, wink, nod, nod. I mean explicit, horrible, racist stuff that again, I had to go through all the comments and delete them all. And that's why I never made another piece of content about this sort of stuff. I quarantined it all on the other channel because that's where it needed to be, somewhere where I didn't have to see that every day. So I will say the comments definitely eat at you a lot. And yeah, it's surprised. I think it's a human thing, right? When somebody says something really horrible about you, it tells your brain that they're a threat, right? They're a threat in a visceral way, because your brain doesn't understand that a person on the internet is barely real, right? They're on the other side of the world. They could be a Russian troll. They could just be someone who's high or drunk and just, going off, right? Your brain treats it like a friend or a member of your tribe has communicated that they hate you, and so your brain fixates on them in a way that's pretty bizarre. And again, I'm not I'm not sitting there in the corner crying, but if I never do another video like that, that would be fine, because I really never want to see those commenters again. And thankfully, I banned them all, so I shouldn't. But I'm sure if I have another video go viral, someone else will start, making a bunch of troll comments, and it'll be fine. All this to say is that if you're a pretty tough guy, you're still kind of bothered by those internet negativity Nancys. Or not even the negative ones. I don't care about negative comments. I just care about personal attacks, right? But yeah, it's surprising how much that messed with me. So I can't imagine being someone who's a pretty sensitive artist type having to deal with that. So yeah, I totally understand why SODAZ dipped out, and I'm a little salty that the community sort of treated him that bad when there's obviously the powerful entity, Games Workshop, $150 a share, market cap probably in the billions, and SODAZ, an animator with 115K subscribers.
If GW had been in close contact with him or put out a statement for him to back him up, like they did with all the other Warhammer animation channels that they took, then he probably would have been okay. It almost seems like SODAZ was treated like shit, whilst other animators, such as the SODAZ or the Exodite guys, had their dicks sucked like a strawberry lollipop. This leads into a bit of an unfortunate theory of mine, which I'm going to trust because my theories have been pretty spot on so far. My theory is that GW has been taking down these animations out of jealousy. Jealousy that fans create better content than them. The acquisition and good treatment of Exodite and Astartes proves this. They wanted the two best teams on their side. Now while SODAZ's animations are legendary, they are also made in SFM, and don't have hardcore hectic CGI vibes that Astartes and Exodite have. Yet, they were still getting tons of views and tons of love, hence why GW treated SODAZ like shit. They didn't care if he joined them or not, they probably only made him the offer to work with them because they knew if they got everyone else to join except for him, they would look like total assholes and that would spark a bit of backlash. SODAZ followed up his post with this YouTube community post, where it seems like GW saw his forum posts and were like, "Oh shit, sorry bro," and then they came up with a pissweak excuse for ghosting him. SODAZ then talked about how the community backlash for all his content vanishing due to GW's bullshit, as well as the copyright pressure from GW, has put him off Warhammer entirely, and that he rejected GW's offer and he's moving on to other things. So bullshit, it's such an avoidable outcome. I know.
Here's the other thing that really bothers me, is that the offer to work with us is not really an offer, right? GW is coming and they want something concrete from these animators. They want these animators to say, you will not produce our IP. Fair enough, right? But they say, hey, in exchange, we will work with you. What does that mean? Help you remove the videos, help you understand what is the IP, bring your videos wholesale onto our platform so they can be viewed and you can get exposure? Or is it you will be given a proportional share of Warhammer Plus subscription money, right? If, something like that, if you will, they somehow prorate it across the platforms. This is the sort of stuff that nobody knows, right? Nobody knows what these work with offers are. Is it a full-time salary job? Are they freelancers? Is it just paying the licensing on their videos, right? Here's the problem too, is that if you say you will delete the videos no matter what, but will offer to buy them, then what you've told these animators is that your options are the trash can or the trivial amount of money Games Workshop will pay you, because there is no other place for it to go. There's no third-party platform that this stuff can get displayed. And undoubtedly Games Workshop knows that, again, because they're a massive corporation dedicated to making money. And yeah, for the animators to take this deal, they've got to have known at the time that this was not a deal they were in a position to refuse. But again, I want to point out that working with someone, that's not a contract, right? An animator, again, who could somehow afford lawyers, would probably say, hey, I will license you my IP, right, in exchange for some amount of money that you can put it on Warhammer Plus. But no, this is protected by copyright law. This is my original work, right? Again, it's really hard to use someone's IP and then threaten to license it back to them. That's a pretty bold move. But as long as your licenses cost less than the lawyers will cost GW, maybe they'll take you up on it, right? But the animators, the truth is, making money off of someone else's IP is just rolling the dice. And I acknowledge that. I'm a reaction channel, right? I have a federal court case supporting the existence of reaction channels specifically. But you may notice, that I'm not one of those channels that sits there and goes, huh, cool, huh, yeah, huh, that's a big gun, huh, right? And that is because, one, I think that's terrible content, and I can't even understand the people that would want to watch it, but also because I need to add something to the content or else I'm violating copyright, right? The spirit, if not the letter, So again, you see, everything I do is clearly a work of criticism or commentary. Usually it's more than twice the length of the video itself, so I spend more time commentating than the original video. And again, it's not 100% of the time, but 99% of my videos operate that way, and that's to ensure that I'm producing original content. So again, you roll the dice with this sort of stuff. But again, GW is big and powerful, and the animators are small and not. And so GW, a better company, perhaps, would have recognized that someone who is powerless but beloved by your community isn't really who you want to be exploiting.
I know I speak for the entire Warhammer community when I say, SODAZ, I'm sorry it ended this way and we wish you best of luck for future endeavors. Now I looked into it, and it does turn out that fan art, especially publicly posted fan animations, does infringe on copyright. It's just that
depending on your country. I'm sure he means Australia, but yeah, doing it for profit in the US for sure.
a company attacking its own fan-generated content is so stupid and rare that no one ever enforces it. Nobody other than GW. I bring this up because GW told the animators that due to copyright and legal reasons, they had to remove their content. But this is such a fucking blatant lie. They did not have to enforce their copyright on these channels. The golden age of Warhammer animations was about to begin, and GW nuked the entire thing. And for what? All the nuked animations have been re-uploaded to YouTube GW. SODAZ, Astartes, it's all there under different YouTube accounts. So all your nuking did was damage. And if the content that was now canon couldn't be under non-GW YouTube accounts, then just re-upload them to a Warhammer animation channel. Not hard at all. And I'd be shocked if your precious copy.
Right, and this is the fundamental problem I have with GW's attitude, is that they don't understand their, and this is true of a lot of content creators, right? They don't understand the insane power of YouTube. YouTube, powered by Google, but YouTube on its own is the second largest search engine in the world. Right? And its incredible algorithm is probably the largest and most used AI other than Google's search engine, maybe even more so. And so when you have a lot of content out there about your franchise, about your IP, that is why it grows. Like we talked about, through 2011 to almost 2016, GW was a consistent, regularly trading stock, $6 or £6 a share. And then what happened in 2016 that created this tremendous growth and interest in their products? Sure, GW had some books and, some more minis, I guess, but really more people could discover the franchise independently for free. That's what's the mind-blowing thing. Every Luton video is him advertising GW products for free. Every Major Kill video, every time somebody binge watches the insanity of Warhammer 40K and they come to it through YouTube, right? It's just casting this tremendous net that ropes in fan after fan, right? How often is it that fans come in for the lore videos or watch a cool animation and go, dude, who's this guy shooting this gun? Then they go to a Luton video, then 400 hours of lore videos later, you're like, I'm going to buy a miniature and paint it, right? Because it looks fun. This is what I think GW is fundamentally missing, is that your own streaming service will only draw existing fans, period. But to grow as a company, or to even sustain yourself as a company, right, you have to draw in new fans, right? Because if you only have this existing community, let's say you had 100 fans, right, every year those fans get older. And if new fans don't come in, right, fans can get tired and leave, That happens to every franchise. Fans dip, get interested in other franchises. Their wife tells them they can't buy and paint any more tiny figurines. Whatever it is, you've got to have input to offset the outcomes, the outlays. And without a tool like YouTube to let strangers, to let non-Warhammer people find Warhammer, you're going to go and destroy your fan base. It's just going to wither on the vine. But of course, corporations don't think that way because they live quarter to quarter. Right? These CEOs have tremendous incentives to increase revenue share after every quarter. And so the idea of leaving their net out in the big ocean to catch new fans is just anathema when they could pull it out and sell it right now for money, right?
Copyright obsession was compromised either. Whoops, I rambled. Ah well, may as well say something to get me in shit now. Here is what I think has gone down. Someone with a lot of say and swing in GW has taken their recent success for granted. They've gained a huge ego and they can't stand the fact that the community makes better content than them. As such, they initiated a big takeover of the Warhammer animation community, as well as starting up their own lore and painting channels. Someone else in GW with a brain cell took advantage of this and they created Warhammer Plus as a way to help justify the moves caused by the first person's huge ego. This is why the process just seems so fucking off. The existence of Warhammer Plus did not require the complete and utter death of the Warhammer animation community. This is
See, no, there's an internally consistent logic. And this is called making sure you get a cut of everything your IP does, right? And this is simple. Someone else makes money off of something that you do or related, and as a company, you have to find a way to get a cut of that action all of the time, right? And that simple short-term thinking, right? Long-term thinking says every fan that watches SODAZ animations, or, you know, of the 1 million people that watch SODAZ animations, we know that 10,000 of them will go and drop a shitload of money over the next 5 years on miniatures and paint and assorted stuff, right? And so you say, okay, long term, maybe it's worth it to let this guy put out his own IP. But if you decide, hey, people are into these videos, we need to make sure we get a cut of the video watching world. Well, the only way we can conceive of doing that is through this very crude system of literally partitioning it off behind a streaming service, right? And it's a way, but if you're going to build a partitioned streaming service, you can't have your competitors giving your product away for free. Right? This is sort of like a very short-sighted but very true economic logic, right? You have to stop your competitors for giving away your product or a very similar product for free in order for you to make the maximum amount of money when you charge for your product. This is how a monopoly works, and regardless of what you say, GW has a monopoly on the IP of Space Marines and Warhammer 40K. So there is a consistent logic in this, right, of shutting down these animators, but it's very short-term thinking, and ultimately they're going to realize that they are never going to be able to bring people into the franchise when they've partitioned it off and tried to wring as much money as possible out of their existing fans, right? The question is, how long is it going to take before GW starts to realize that there aren't new fans coming into the franchise, and therefore there's only an exit, right? I worry about, I worry a little bit about that day, but ultimately we will be fine because our livelihood is not dependent on Games Workshop. But Games Workshop, it's their business. They can run it however they want, but I think it's a mistake.
This is also concerning to channels like mine. If GW doesn't want to compete against fan-made animations, what if it soon doesn't want to compete against unofficial lore channels? What if it doesn't want to compete against unofficial painting channels? It sucks that Games Workshop is like the only game company like this who gets wrecked over fucking over their community and losing money. Serious fuckwit mentality that I hope results in whatever egomaniac who's pulling the strings to get the boot. So to be crystal clear, because I don't want my point to get buried under my own rage, although it wasn't cool of the loud minority of people to give SODAZ shit about him removing his content, the real asshole in this situation is GW. They forced SODAZ to remove his videos regardless of his choices, and then they didn't do any announcement or supportive statement for him like they did with the other animators. To make it even worse, they ghosted him after they forced him to remove the very videos that his audience and channel had been built around. I don't mind Warhammer animators going off to work with GW. I don't mind GW making Warhammer Plus. I'm a capitalist as well, I think it's a good idea. But the way GW has gone about it is incredibly toxic, and they should be ashamed of themselves. So that's my thoughts on Warhammer Plus and the SODAZ situation. I had a number of people asking me about it and what I thought about it, but I didn't want to publicly comment until I had all the facts and information I needed. I'm not a GW hater or one of those pessimistic douchebags that just complains about everything. I just want GW to know that they're going about this in the wrong way.
Here's my final thoughts on this. Ultimately, here's what sucks. existing fans, right? New fans. Somewhere out there is a young person, a 16-year-old, a 36-year-old, and they don't know it yet, but in the next 12 months, they were the perfect candidate to discover a SODAZ animation and come into the Warhammer 40k fandom. Maybe they would have given GW a ton of money. Maybe they would have given them a little bit. Maybe they wouldn't have given them any money and would have just been a fan who likes watching lore, right? But that person isn't going to come into the franchise now because you've removed a huge section of your inroads, right? You had robust networks of these fan animators that were putting out stuff across YouTube, drawing in fans, right? And so you've closed that off. There's still lore channels. There's still channels like mine. I don't know how many fans I'm bringing into the franchise, but there's still channels like Major Kills. There's still a lot out there. And by all means, you should, hopefully those draw in the fans. But nothing is going to draw them in, right, like excitement. And unless you have that ability to get people excited about a Space Marine, about a Tyrannid, about about the Lehman Russ, about a guardsman fighting for his life, right? These are things that you have to get people excited, and then you can feed them the lore videos, right? And then you get them invested, and then you get them invested emotionally, and then you get them invested monetarily, right? That is a great long-term business model. And so I think Games Workshop's biggest mistake is not so much going after these animators that are making money with unlicensed IP, but that deciding that we are going to put our IP, into this closed environment, this walled partition, and we're never going to let it out. And so only existing fans will ever find it. And that's the loss here, right? What GW should have done, one, it could have gone to these animators and said, hey, listen, we see you've used our IP, right? We're a little miffed about this. So, but we want to keep it on YouTube because you obviously have grown a ton of fans, and we really appreciate it. And we don't want to have to be involved in very expensive court cases in 3 continents. So we are going to offer you a licensing deal. As long as you will get a license to use GW properties, you have to add a disclaimer that says that this is a fan tribute and is not canon, and you have to agree not to, have the Space Marines like stabbing babies or going off the off the beaten path, right? Having something happen that they would be embarrassing for GW, right? And you say, okay, sure. Or say, hey, you guys can get your own SODAZ Warhammer channel, but we got to split revenues 50-50, right? Now you've incentivized the creator community to do these sorts of things. Of course, there's some other fraught problems. It's like, how do you grow the next generation of animators if you have this strong walled partition that says you must get a GW IP license to make animations about Space Marines? So there's some problems, but they're not nearly as problematic as what they did do, which is crush tiny threats to their bottom line just to ensure that fans can only get Warhammer animation from a pay-to-play service. Okay, guys, that is all I had. I hope you found this interesting, right? This is one of the biggest controversies in the community, and I'm glad I got a chance to weigh in. Be sure to check out Major Kill's video. Of course, be sure to check out my merch store and all the other channels. And until next time, man, I will see you guys later.